Hi, I'm Davy, and if you're new here, I had just finished my third year at university. I'm studying computer science with a minor in cognitive science, and this video has been really long requested for kind of a long time. This is where I will be interning in the summer, and as you can see from the title, I am interning at Nike as a software engineer, and I am beyond excited. So I just want to start off the video to apologize a bit for why this video took me so long to make. I did accept this offer back in November. It's been quite a long time since I have accepted this offer and that I knew what I was doing for the summer. But one of the reasons that it took me for so long was that one, I hadn't received the official acceptance back yet that they had accepted me for quite a couple months, and then COVID-19 happened, so we were in quarantine. So then I didn't know if the internship was still even going to happen, if I was going to still be able to go to Portland, or I just had to find something else to do for the summer. And fortunately, it was not canceled, but it is online, so I will be spending the 10 weeks that I'm doing this internship at my home. So a bit unfortunate that I won't be able to go to Portland, but I'm still very blessed and excited that I was still able to do the internship, so I'm still excited about it. And then once I found out that it was going online, I was like, okay, let me just wait till I find out what team I'm on. So I do know what team I'm on. I will be on the Enterprise Data and Analytics, specifically under Advanced Analytics and Machine Learning. So I guess my project will be, I haven't received my exact project yet, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about how I got it and how I got the internship in at all. So this video will be split into 3 parts. First will be how I applied to software engineering internships in the fall in general. And then the second part will be my first interview, and the third part will be my third interview. So part 1 is how I applied to software engineering internships as a whole. So I have made quite an in-depth video on this a couple months ago, so I'll put that in the link description below. But a quick overview is that I had a note Excel sheet of all of the internships that I was applying to, where I was applying, how long it took, what was the application process, and just different things like that. I studied quite a lot over the fall. I used a lot of coding bat. I used different companies that I didn't want their internship as much as practice for the companies that I really wanted, such as Nike. And so that was really good practice for me, specifically with the coding assessments and stuff like that. For the in-person interview, I'm pretty good at behavioral questions and answering behavioral questions like that, so that wasn't a big issue for me, but it was something that I practiced, and I went to Career Center Semi-University to practice answering behavioral questions in the best way that I could. So if you want any more information and more in-depth information about that, please go check out that video. So the second part is the first part of the interview. So I've also made a video on this. I kind of vlogged that day, so that video will also be in the description below. So it was 2 coding samples and a phone interview. So I had an hour to answer 2 questions, and then maybe 10 minutes later I had my phone interview. So the phone interview was behavioral. They asked me to go through my resume, which I did. He asked me some questions and clarifications based on that. So it's super important to have a really, really good resume that's very clear and concise and just hits off the points super, super well. I'll show the part of my resume, I think the parts that are important that I can show, and just the sections of which part is the best to show. For example, at the top needs to be your name, the school you go to, your GPA, relevant courses, and your major when you graduate, stuff like that. Immediately under there, I put my technical skills, so the languages that I knew, the programming languages, in order of my proficiency. So that is just the order of that languages were in, and the operating systems that I knew. And then the next 2 sections, the big blocks, are just like related experience, so like my past internships, my TA experience and stuff like that, and unrelated experiences like working at AMC and just like movie theaters and stuff like that. So that is just how my resume was split up, and I think it's pretty good. I've gotten a lot of calls for a lot of interviews, so I would advise to bump up your resume. If you are applying to a lot of internships or jobs and not hearing back, try to reevaluate your resume and try to make it as best as you can. So the coding sample, I did take this in like October, so it's been quite a long time, but I think that, again, if you watch that video, the vlog that I took when I was taking it, I don't think it was very hard. I think it would probably be between level 1 and 2 on LeetCode. I can't remember specifically what the question was, but I think it was something had to do with arrays, like mapping the arrays in a different way, something like that. So it wasn't that hard of a question. I did finish both of them in about 30 minutes. So I mean, it was pretty good. It was just 2 questions in an hour. So and I also was taking a lot of coding samples that day. Specifically, I think I took Twitter's, and I also took Google's part 1, I think. I'm not too sure. So it was just like my brain was really going. But for practice on specifically coding samples, those are really stressful, and those are hard. I would advise to do LeetCode. LeetCode has been a huge success for me. You really learn, and there's definitely you can definitely pay to look at questions that specific companies use more often than not, but I didn't do that. I just like practice LeetCode in general. So that is just what happened with mine. The application process was taking those 2 coding samples in the phone interview. I think I took it on a Saturday, and I think by Tuesday the following week, I'd already received the acceptance of the next part of the interview process. So the next part of the interview process was this huge thing called a Nike Swoosh Day in the city I'm from, and we had to drive that Friday and Saturday to the main city of my state. So this isn't where I'm from, but for example, we had to drive to New York City, and everyone from the East Coast went to New York City, and we spent 2 days learning about the internship program, learning about different people, and it was actually a really cool experience. They paid a lot of money. They gave me a lot of money to like drive to the city, so that was actually pretty cool and very nice of them. They gave me a water bottle, they gave me a bunch of stuff. And so when I got there, right, so I got there on Friday, and I had set my interview process for my in-person interview for that Saturday morning, because I wanted to test out the scene, like hear other people's experiences and get to know the people that will be interviewing me a little bit more before I just jumped up in there. So the first day was just all about learning how the internship worked. So we had a lot of talks. One of the head people from the Nike organization status, I actually don't remember her name, but she came and gave a really informative talk about how important this internship is. And it was also more than just computer science people. I think there were some engineers and some fashion designers. So it was actually really cool to know that not just like my internship was a global technology aspect, but there's a bunch of different sectors that the Nike internship is over. So that's actually really cool and interesting to know. And then one of the biggest aspects that we did that day, other than just like, you know, sitting and listening to people talk to us, was that we had to form a project plan and a proposal and actually execute it. So then we had a mentor that was with us for each team. So they separated us by shoes. So I think mine was like Hirachis or something like that. So that's actually pretty cool. So they separated us by shoes, and we had a mentor. The plan for my team of people was a mix of augmented reality with the Nike Swoosh app. I think that's what it's called. It's essentially like if you're on the Nike app and you're looking at shoes, there's no really good way to know if the shoe will fit you or will look nice with what you have. So a little bit of the mix of the Amazon augmented reality, where like you can see the product in front of you. It's a bit like that, where we were trying to implement that you're going to see the shoe in front of you and on your foot. So that's what our plan was. You didn't have to actually like create anything tangible. You just had to write on paper your business plan, who we're impacting, and other things like that. And then you had to present it in front of everybody. So that was actually really cool. The mentor that was there judged us each individually, I guess on multiple things like teamwork, leadership, and stuff like that. So I tried really hard to take a big primary role in showing my leadership skills. I was very adamant on listening to everyone's side, but also making sure that I was being vocal. And then in the presentation, I actually didn't specifically present anything because the other people really wanted to. And I was like, I'm being a team player here, let them, you know, go off. But when they asked us questions in the presentation and people got stuck, I was there immediately to jump in and answer any question. I kind of just made stuff up. But, you know, you got to present yourself that you know what you're talking about. So that is what I did. And so we actually got judged on that, and my team did not win. So that was one of the things also that I thought that if you had won that thing, you were basically guaranteed to get an internship. But a few of my friends were on the team that won and actually did not get the internship. It was actually very interesting. So that's good to know that like they didn't just solely based your acceptance based on that example. So that was, or that assessment. So that was pretty cool. So the people that won got like a book bag. They gave us Nike gift cards for the store. So it was actually really, really cool how much they gave to us just for interviewing. So I really, really appreciate the generosity that Nike has. And so after I left that day, I left around 5 p.m. and I went back to my house, and then I drove again back to the city and I had my interview. It turned out that the interview was not actually technical. I was a bit confused as because I'm a global technology intern. I didn't really get assessed on my technical skills. I think the only question they asked me technical was like, what is an API? How would you explain an API to someone that has no technical background? And so I did, and I explained it, but most of it was going through my resume again. So this is like the biggest takeaway from this, is making sure your resume is as good as possible and that you know what's on it, essentially. So I had my resume in front of me, and I knew I was talking to her, and she asked me a lot of questions. And then in every interview that you do in person, if it's behavioral, you always got to ask them questions. So it's actually really cool that I got an African-American lady to interview me. So I was very happy about it, actually. So I could talk to her specifically on her experience of being African-American at Nike and how that worked, and being a woman at Nike. Because in my field of software engineering, a lot of it is just Caucasian men, so it is quite a struggle. But she explained her experience with me, and we kind of vibed. She asked me if I've ever been to Portland, and I was like, no, I've never been on the West Coast in my life. So it was actually really, really cool, very informative. And after I left the interview, I thought I did really well. I drove back home. This was on Saturday, and by, again, the following Tuesday, I got a call from my recruiter that I was accepted. So he called me. I was actually in the middle of Calc 2 class. I remember that. I was in the middle of Calculus 3. I was in the middle of Calculus 3 when the number called me. I was like, oh my goodness. So then I left class, I called him back, and I got the internship. So I was super, super excited. That was back in October when I received the offer. So that is essentially how I got the Nike internship. So to just recap it again, I just, applied to as many internships as I possibly could, tried to do my best and learn a bunch of technical questions like leak code and stuff like that to practice my skills, and also using the Career Center at my university for behavioral questions, because that was the most behavioral questions I've ever had in any of my interviews. I've expressed this a bit more in detail in the video that I explained of how I applied to internships, but I did apply to a lot, and I took a lot of technical interviews, but I think the Nike's was the only one that I had more than one behavioral, so that's very interesting. So definitely use your resources that are available to you to be really good at behavioral questions, and make sure that your resume is up to par. I actually use what is this site? I use this site called Latex, so like Overleaf Latex, and I would highly advise to look it up. I'll put it in the description below as well. And they have a lot of templates to make your resume look more professional, and that is what I use to make my resume. One of my friends sent me a script, because it's a scripting language. So my friend sent me a script to make my resume, and I just input the information that I need, or add more or less than what is necessary. So I highly recommend Latex and Overleaf to help build your resume. They're very, very informative. So yeah, I am very, very excited for the internship. I am still in contact with my manager and stuff like that. We are he's actually last week gave me a lot of information of what to do and all of the resources that I need to look up, like Python and Java. So I'm very, very excited. The internship got pushed back a bit, so I don't start till June 16th. So if anyone is interested in video games, I'm going to be changing this channel a little bit into more of me and more of what I love, which is also video games. So incorporating that a bit more. So I do stream on Twitch almost every single day, starting about 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I will be making more schedule. I'll be rebranding everything. So I'm very, very excited. If you would like to watch me on Twitch, currently it's twitch.tv/diamante_davy. Soon I'll be changing it to Daviel, so everything is more concise. And if you want to keep more up to date with me, and then if you have any questions on anything, you can follow me on Twitter at _Daviel. I have also changed my Twitter, so I'm completely revamping everything on my social media. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some value on how I was able to secure this internship. I'm also very, 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 very excited for the future and for this internship itself. I am going to be recording a lot of videos during that experience, a lot of vlogs of my day-to-day, what I did that day, what projects I was assigned, what virtual internship activities we have. So I'm very excited for the whole future, but yeah, I'm super excited. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and got some value out of it, and I will see you next time.